moving on to our next session. It's more interesting, more exciting. It's called the New Content Studio System, Decentralized, Digital, and On Demand. This session will explore how content is now created faster, cost efficiently, and across borders. So it's going to be, again, like I mentioned, a very exciting session now. And joining us on stage for this session, we have Ankita, Vice President of the Content Marketplace at Talentrack, India's leading casting and content marketplace. With 15 plus years in digital and integrated marketing, she has led key brand initiatives, including her previous role as General Manager Marketing at Realme India. At Talentrack, she now spearheads the platform's growth with sharp strategic insight and deep industry expertise. That's Ankita, everyone. Next, we have Anisha Iyer, CEO of OMD India. Anisha is a dynamic leader known for her bold creativity and deep expertise in media. With a passion for advertising and a digital-first mindset, she brings fearless leadership and strategic insight to the ever-evolving media landscape. Anisha, everyone. Next up, we have Nitin Naresh, Managing Director of Magnon Designory. In 2014, Nitin became one of the youngest multinational agency managing directors in the history of Indian advertising. From joining a startup early on to leading an ace creative agency under the Omnicom group, Nitin loves to stay hands-on with key clients of the agency. His deep understanding of digital and ability to adapt and align has resulted into creative disruptions for numerous brands. That's Nitin, everyone. And now, moderating this panel, we have Vivek Merani, Managing Director of Omnicom Productions India, Magnon Designory. Let's give it up for him. Appointed MD at a very young age, he has led the company to become a key strategic partner for many global brands. He is also an advisor to several startups and a regular speaker at industry forums. Vivek holds an MBA and enjoys sports and travel. That's Vivek, everyone. Give it up for our panelists and the moderator. And over to you, Vivek, now. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka. Ankita, Anisha, Nitin, guess what our challenge is? Lunchtime, one lullaby story, long story, storytelling session. Now we have to keep the audience awake. So, shall we start by standing up or we're good? All right, okay. So, interesting. I think we've had a lovely session. This session, I think, primarily focused on, from a marketing parlance, I would say, focused on top of the funnel, because, you know, storytelling is a lot of awareness, and top of the funnel, that's what brands want. I think this session is more around content and creating a lot more content. You know, I think, and the need for content in top funnel, mid funnel, lower funnel is also there, but usually may not be spoken about. But the fact is that, you know, with digital coming in, and they say content is king, context is queen, personalization are their offsprings. So, you know, there's a lot of content that needs to be developed. There are a lot of people developing content. You know, there are social agencies, there are influencer agencies, there are e-com agencies, there are experiential marketing agencies, there are creator agencies, then there are artists, and there are celebrities, and everybody wants to create content, and everybody is creating content. So when the one brand, when it all started, the way it started, it was much easier. I think the landscape has become more complex. A lot of content needs to be developed. Brands are now not necessarily working with one agency. They are dating, In some cases, they are speed dating. That literally this engagement, and we'll work with them. So, and with this, what's happened is agencies have tried to keep up. I think us at Magnon, when we started 25 years back, we had some capabilities. We were a 4-people team. We used to make websites. That was the one capability. Eventually, we added capabilities. We are 600 people now. But as we added capabilities, we realized that we don't necessarily, we can't necessarily keep up everything in-house. There are many specialists who are emerging. And with that came in a lot of marketplaces. You have platforms like Upwork or a Fiverr, where you literally go and shop for talent. I think a lot of mid-sized and small businesses are leveraging a lot of these marketplaces. Talentrack, I think a great example of how large companies, large enterprises are leveraging a marketplace because it's a managed service. I think larger enterprises don't like putting in their credit cards and finding people. So, they'd like a more managed service. So, the landscape has changed, and I think that's what we're going to speak about. I'm just setting the context. That's how we look at it. There is AI, I think, like the last topic was around AI, a lot of content being created by AI, but I think this session will keep for humans, because that could be another whole new topic. So in this space, if we were to get your views, and I'll start with Nitin on my left. That Nitin, so how is it that as an agency you have managed to choose the right partners who you want to work with, and be able to tell brands that these are the right partners who we can work with brands?
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, it just struck me. I've got two of my. We are a creative content agency, Magnon Designory. So I've got two of my big enablers on my left. So on one hand, I have Anisha. She runs a media agency, and we get a lot of MR, media diaries, requirements to create content, when she deals, with her clients and our common clients on media campaigns. So she's an enabler for my business. And then we have the lady on far left, wherein we rely a lot to get actually that content created, talent sourced, and content sourced, and likewise. So they're big enablers. Thank you very much. Having said that, coming to your question, Vivek, so campaigns for clients have moved from being 4 assets for a campaign to maybe 400, maybe 4,000 at a stretch for one campaign. That's the number of pieces of content you need to create, right? So, and when you need to do that much, clearly you can't do that, all in-house, right? 400 to 4,000, for example, is a huge range. And in that sense, brands also have to become, if I may say, they have to act or behave like content platforms. They're not really a brand per se. They also have to become a content platform. They need to churn out content, which is very relevant, which is which is very fast. It carries a lot of variety, and relatability. And to be able to do that, we need to be, I as an agency, and that's what perhaps you were trying to ask, I as an agency, we need to be ready to meet all those criteria while keeping a P&L in place and observing those metrics as well. And that is where, if it were only about those 4 pieces of content earlier, I would have happily done that in-house. If it were 40 at a stretch, I would do it. 400 is a chance taking, 4,000 absolutely not. So and that's where relying on content partners, either from the talent sourcing side or from content production side, is where we as business today rely immensely, while being an interface to our clients and being the brand guardians or guardians of consistency and relatability and to the point or to the marketing objective, keeping that secured within our own premises. We absolutely use partners like Talentrack, and that's where the enablement comes in, to be able to produce content at speed, scale, cost, time, on point. I mean, that's how we work today.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So Anisha, on your part, clients tell you, okay, my competition did this. We need to quickly act and turn something around overnight. So flexibility and agility around turnaround times, and they assume that you will also take care of everything, from identifying placements to putting in the content that is most contextual over there. How is it that you're able to service that?
Come to us, Anisha, we'll do it. Don't worry.
I thought there were no sales pitches, but okay. The truth is, a lot of brands want to act overnight, agile. They would say it, but they wouldn't do it. More often than
I
not.
can't believe it. You're calling their bluff.
No, and I'm serious. Of the 10 requests that one would get saying you have 12 hours to pull something off, we might pull it off. They won't pull it off in those 12 hours because vetting process at their end would take another 48, which typically isn't a realization when they're briefing you. They want to be reactive, but they're not planned. And honestly, I think at the end of the day, it kind of boils down to, I think Aditya said that in the previous panel, he said creative courage, but I'm saying courage period, right? So there's some brands inherently have designed themselves in a manner where courage becomes almost DNA. And therefore it isn't reactive, it's slightly more planned. The spontaneity is also planned. Amul's like that, Oreo is like that, Durex is like that. They are extremely spontaneous, but they're extremely planned spontaneity. But most of the others who are reactive, either what they put out there will not be great, or you will not remember it, or it'll be terrible. But most often, they will not do it. Request process may happen, running around, stress, trying to make 50 phone calls in the middle of the night. For us as a job will happen, but believe me, 8 out of 10 will not even get executed. And that takes a little while, I think. But today, after all these years, I can tell you when I do get that phone call from somebody, first I have to see who's calling, and in what context they are calling, and then I know how seriously to take that panic. In that sense, more often than not, in 30 minutes, it'll die its own death. Having said that, I don't want to run away from the opportunity of being agile or the importance of being agile. I think it's important. From an agency standpoint, I think our responsibility is try and be slightly more planned in the process of how, if we end up in a situation of an opportunity, what is the distinctiveness of the brand that we need to drive, and therefore then we can be slightly more planned in our reaction. I mean, that would be my only way of handling it.
So even in planned, I mean, the timelines have definitely shrunk, have they? Or yeah,
Of course
so
they have.
in terms of the partners that you would want to work with, how is it that you essentially choose them? Ensure that they will deliver what is there, and it could be a very complicated process. So how do you manage that?
Okay, I'll probably say something slightly away from what the panel is saying, maybe. For me, I think partners is the least of the problems, because once you're absolutely clear on what you want to execute and where, then partner finding is not difficult. Getting it executed is not difficult. How many times do we have a situation where we brief somebody and then we say, "Tum idea batao," because in our heads we don't know what the hell to do. So I think more often than not, if you're able to write down on a piece of paper what you want to do in as much clarity as you can, and I understand it, you may not reach the nth level of clarity, but at least 70-80% a brand should know along with their core agency in terms of where they're heading. And then production with which partner is the least of the problems. The minute you start asking for partners for ideas, it's doomsday, you know, because you're clearly not clear. You look at all of the brands that are memorable, are all consistent across platforms. You take an Apple, you take a Red Bull that he spoke about, take a Dove. They're very, very clear. They don't care about partners. They're obsessed about the message. They're obsessed about delivering the right message in the right platform. Then it doesn't matter. But all of the others clearly are not memorable. And that's because 17 people are giving them 17 ideas and then they don't know how to assimilate it. I think that therein lies the problem in my view.
No, you're absolutely right. I think the supply is too much, but curated supply is perhaps what folks are looking at. And Ankita, I'll bring you in at that point, because I guess you're managing this fine balance of in some cases even crowdsourcing ideas. Those two copywriters on the account in an agency may have been on leave. So the brand kind of goes out and outsources, even crowdsources ideas. So Ankita.
Agree with that. Before I start, or before I actually give my point of view, I would like to say that there are 3 members who are sitting from the agency side. Talentrack, I have heard from a couple of people that Talentrack is a competition for the agency. Just to give you a clear picture here, that Talentrack is not a competition for the agency. Talentrack is a complement for the agency. Talentrack enables the agency to come up with different content productions. And since you mentioned, Vivek, that you started with 6 members, then now you have 600 members in Magnon. Here at Talentrack, we have 700,000 plus creators.
Mic pass le jana.
700,000 plus creators who are registered with us, who are onboarded on our platform. And we have 15,000 plus producers, studios, vendors, agencies, whatever you talk about, anything and everything related to the content, and people who are providing the content services. We have those people. And this is a huge community. As we speak, we are still growing. And through this, what we are doing, we are sourcing you more talents. So yes, we are a content marketplace, and definitely that makes us little different, but yes, we work together. So now coming back to your question, since we guys were talking about that there are very few resources in the agency, okay? They come up with the ideas, they churn out a lot of hours and time to prepare few ideas, but later on what happens, the saturation level definitely comes. Here, content marketplace Talentrack comes. And here, we guys enable the agencies to come up with more ideas, utilizing the different vendors, creators, artists, because we have all the big pool of these artists here. And through that, we guys curate more ideas and we present it to the client with you.
Interesting. I know, because we work together, and whenever we are in a spot, we come to you. That अच्छा नहीं हो रहा, client मान नहीं रहा, फटाफट करना है, so please crowdsource. So I think what you definitely help us do is help us curate and then choose some of those partners, not just execution. And Anisha, it was not just execution, some cases even ideas. That's something that is new. One of the things that we as an agency, we might go and suggest in a brief, we might suggest a different medium, but an idea could be more influencer led, which might be more powerful, which we may not have thought of, but essentially, a partner might bring it out very clearly, and we essentially would go and pitch that idea to a brand, and it's kind of, it's worked well in a lot of such cases. Nitin, if I ask now, one thing is that many ideas, Anisha, to your point, that too many ideas could be also spoiled. So I think quality of content and creativity essentially could be a piece, because कोई भी कुछ भी idea दे सकता है, but it's not on brand. So how is it that you deal with it? Because I understand you work with multiple partners, but how do you bring in the consistency in the tonality for brands?
So offshoring is a big word these days, right? And then comes another term which is now doing a lot of rounds, and it absolutely makes sense. And I'm taking a little divergent route to come back to your question. The other term that's coined is smart shoring. Now, which is to say, so just a lesson to that. Offshoring would mean the client is in the US markets, for example, and there are jobs or services that can be delivered in a low-cost country like ours, and hence it is offshored to India to produce content. And we do this, guys. A lot of us are here. We do this absolutely for so many of these clients. That's offshoring in its pure play model. However, that has its own challenges also, which is to say, does the offshoring partner even understand cultural nuances, of the land, where the client is, and social, strata or social behaviors of that, or relevancy and all that bit. Now, to overcome this challenge is where the smart shoring comes in play, wherein some roles still remain onshore, which is to say, strategy or creative or account management or client servicing, all that remains onshore, while the back-end kitchen or operations and actual execution gets offshored to a low-cost country. That was the challenge, and that's the solution, and hence called smart shoring. So similarly, taking that kind of model here, when we engage partners like Talentrack, who are aggregators, both from a talent provision as well as content production or content even creation side of things, we do keep those rail guards, within the agency, which is to say, we remain the brand guardians. We ensure, the whatever is being done by a partner is on brand, so that quality, or QA, QC, as we call in regular terms, and being on brand, being on objective, being on point, being able to stitch it together to the larger goal of a client is something that remains in-house at the agency, while we engage partners to kind of produce content and meet those timelines or speed or cost efficiency objectives. I mean, if that answers.
No, I think, yeah, it does. Basically, what you're saying is that the agency is the guardian and remains the guardian, and that's essentially why large companies trust their agencies to remain the guardians. Very, very logical. And I'm glad it's like that, because that's why we have jobs. So so far, no, interesting. Anisha, from a perspective, because there's just so much out there. I think in the previous session we spoke about this. There is this whole thing of our attention is less than what it is of a goldfish. That's the level of attention that is there. It is absolutely hard for any brand to stand out. That narrative to kind of be out there and be consistent, right? And there is a big difference between creating noise and a coherent story, right? So, and what you're involved in is the amplification. How do you manage that? Because coherence and noise, they're extreme, so that it doesn't become noise.
Honest confession, I think at this point in time, most of the components of businesses in the ecosystem don't manage it well. So let me give you an example. Typically, when you're briefed on a campaign or a launch, there is the comms agency that's doing their own set of thinking. There is a media agency that's doing their own set of thinking. At some point, somebody is supposed to tie it together. It's supposed to make sense, and then eventually things get produced. What I have noticed, I mean, in the yesteryears, the comms agency would define what the communication would be, pass it to the media agency, and they would plaster it wherever they need to plaster it. I think what's missing, I think we try. I don't necessarily think we're a 10 on 10 even as OMD yet, but we definitely try and find a way to at least reverse some of the pieces with respect to input. So for example, if there's enough understanding of the audience, what they do, how much they do, where they spend time, what moves them, what doesn't, as much as data can tell us, if that input can go right at the beginning of whoever's thinking about the story, then hopefully it doesn't come as a surprise later to say, oh, by the way, thank you for making this beautiful newspaper ad. I don't think print makes sense for this TG. I don't think that should be an afterthought in my view. Typically when there's integrated briefs and integrated planning, ideally this hurdle shouldn't exist at all, because the input should ideally go right at the beginning, and then everything else will snowball easier because that input went in first. So that's one part of my answer to you, that at least is there a way to manage the chaos? The answer is yes. Are people doing a great job of it? The answer is no. The truth also is most people are territorial. So, that kind of sometimes causes problems with respect to lines, and that's the honest confession as an industry person that I would say. But what I would also, half of that I think is also, as much as it is the responsibility of the agency world, it is also the responsibility of the brand. Ultimately, it's their message, their name and reputation, and their money on the line. So if anyone should insist, or anyone should make at least a slightly more serious effort towards ensuring that planning clarity exists rather than scrambling for execution and ideas at a later date. Those brands tend to succeed better, or those campaigns tend to succeed better. So if I had 10 days, I would use 9 days to just plan, because then my last day is very easy. Versus we use 2 days to plan and then we're running for the next 8 days, and then you don't even put out a great show. So cohesion and consistency is not an option. I don't think you can be consistent or not. You better be consistent. Otherwise, no one's going to understand communication. You look at one message in 7 different places, it should at least look, smell, feel similar. Because, half second in 7 different places will curate at least 4 seconds of total time, right? And at least you'll be able to remember something. If you say completely 5 distinct things in 5 different places, you're not going to remember it. So yeah, for me, consistency is not an option. Cohesion is not an option. Better planning is required. I think it's slightly more the prerogative of the media agency, in my view, right now, to enable as much as that information can go through, because we're the ones sitting on data and churning it every day. So me and the likes of me, we do a slightly better job, I think.
Do clients like you for being very Mufat?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where my first slide on my credentials say you're signing up an honest agency.
Yeah. Okay. No, good. I think I think you're clearly kind of calling out a spade. So that definitely is there. A lot of people are looking helter-skelter for what to do. They have to do something and eventually come up. So Ankita, from a Talentrack perspective, I'm sure it's like a common thing to handle and bring in quality and consistency. Eventually it is the ask. So, what is your view on how do you manage consistency and coherence in content? You've been on the brand side also, and you kind of understand that space well.
Yes, absolutely. See, the quality is very much important, whether you are the brand side or you are working in agency. Because when I'm a former brand lead, so when I was used to work in brand side, the content messaging guidelines, this becomes very important for the marketing collaterals. And if you are putting media money and the consistency is not there in different medium, it becomes very difficult, because you are not able to give the proper answer for the ROIs, because you are confusing your audience. On similar lines, when you're working with the partners like agency. So from marketplace perspective, at Content Marketplace here, when we guys are working on any of the campaigns, to execute and deliver it to the client. We make sure the quality is well matched. Why? Because we guys have a proper quality network service. What we do, we have different parameters. So one of the measure what we have is we have a functionality called leaderboard. It's a Talentrack's unique leaderboard and rating matrix that we guys have created. This is a platform where all the production houses, agencies, creators, influencers, the leaderboard is there basis on the rating. Their whole rating is done because they have worked with us. They have basis on our feedback, basis on clients' feedback, basis on the engagement matrix. We guys have rated them and they have a ranking. So let's say Anisha gives me a brief that she wants to create like 15-second short, like, videos, vertical format or whatever. So once we guys get the brief, we get the details. It is like duration is 15 seconds, like estimated budget, XYZ. When we guys get such kind of details, basis on the brief, we go to the leaderboard, we check who will be the suitable production house who can work on such kind of brief. We select those production house, we outreach to them who are interested, they share their cost proposal, their ideas, and we guys share the entire thing to Anisha, and it becomes very easy for Anisha and her procurement team also. Why? Because we guys are giving the choice. So at marketplace, we guys are giving the choice, plus we are also working on the speed and focusing on the cost efficiency. So these things we guys are anyways capturing. Basis on this, we are not compromising on the quality of the content. So we make sure that basis on the rating of this production house, we are giving the entire work on time and there is no quality mismatch which happens. That is one of the thing. Apart from that, we have a dedicated team also, another measure, who keeps the entire check. Because of course, you require the overall brand guidelines that you have to take it, and the vendor with whom you are working, you have to make sure the training and everything is given to them. Why? Because the consistency, the messaging, everything is very important. So whosoever works with us, being a content marketplace, we are not only just facilitating or aggregating the vendors to just, deliver the work, but our central team, our dedicated team keeps all these kind of checks. Plus, the compliances are very important. The contracts are very important. This is the another quality check that we keep that into the measure. So these are the things.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, because contracting otherwise could be like a long process, and we've seen how it works with brand. So Ankita, from what I'm hearing, you're basically solving not just a marketing problem, but a procurement problem also. So because
so it's like one-stop solution, you can say. Yeah, one platform with infinite content solution plus the procurement. That's
okay.
Ankita, can I ask something? Who do you like working with more? Directly a media agency or a creative content agency? Or who is easier to work with?
Both for me. We are a content marketplace. You come up with the brief and we guys will be able to deliver it.
Okay. So now coming to like there's compliances. I think as Omnicom agencies, we also have to deal with a lot of compliances from a global compliance, and there's a lot of AI, and there could be copyright infringement and aspects like those that need to be covered. Working with creators who probably don't necessarily are thinking about those level of compliances. So Nitin, if I may ask you that, what kind of filters you think you will apply to to bring in those level of compliances?
I think the answer lies in even if we are working on a campaign or some communications, even in-house at the agency, it remains the same. One needs to draw the periphery of guidelines or compliances that need to be followed, whether my headcount copywriter or an art or creative or strategy person works or a partner works. Of course, there's if I may say, there's slightly more risk of dropping the ball when you engage outside partners, right? But I think that is where a consistent honest partner comes in play. As long as you are able to, as long as you have enough processes and practices in place to convey what is required or what is expected, or the guardrails, and the partner is able to convey that further, and a cross check, before delivering to the client, the process largely remains the same, in-house or outside.
So Ankita, what does it take to be a 5-star partner on the platform? उसको तो बहुत काम मिलेगा.
Absolutely, because of course the different parameters are there, right? So these days the the formats are different, right? The platforms are increasing, if you have to say. Even like for a lot of as an MR, when we guys talk about, there are OTT where we guys also as in do a lot of, short ads, right? So I'll be giving you one of the examples. So Amazon is one of the clients with whom we guys have worked many as in projects we have delivered. And definitely they are not actually only working on the digital medium. They are also as in going ahead and doing offline, mediums also. So we have 360, work. So definitely this will actually work for us. Apart from that, when the compliance thing, what Nitin was mentioning about, it is very much important. The contracts are very much important because these creators, these influencers who are very big, influencer names, they might not be as in understanding the overall as in contractual, pointers. Why? Because they might be endorsing your brand, like let's say this mineral water. Maybe next month or next week, they might be endorsing some other mineral water. So those kind of contracts becomes very important, and we make sure, especially from the content marketplace perspective, because we have to see the buyer and we have to see the seller also. Buyer is our client and the seller becomes our vendor with whom we guys are working. And we have to make the certain set of pointers like a Bible that has to be there so that there is no complication between the brand and the seller both.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's an evolving process,
Absolutely.
in terms of rating partners. I remember about 15 years back, we used to be doing a lot of international offshoring on, a platform back then called Elance. And they banned us for something that we did. We didn't know. they banned us. So later we found out. So I think, I think the platforms are very particular about those level of compliances, which is great. I think it might be a good idea to get questions from the audience before we do that, and maybe I'll leave like a hook question for for the three of you. Is in 3 lines, short content format. In 3 lines, what would your last 3 lines would be advice on using a decentralized content model or leveraging this model?
Am I supposed to speak? Okay.
Yeah, you're the fastest. So.
Sure. No. So content production and content creation. Content creation requires talent. It requires ideas. It requires variety in every meaning of the word variety, right? All that may not be in-house. We need partners to decentralize and get that variety and talent in place. On the content production side, we are talking high volumes, let me say, a very huge variation in the volume requirement. We are talking super quick turnaround times. We are talking cost and time efficiency. So on one end, we have content creation with talent, variety requirement. On the content production side, we have volumes management, cost management, time management. For both these, any agency like ours can have a baseline, a bandwidth to deliver and maintain on its headcount. For rest, everything else, we need partners. And that's where the decentralized model comes in play on both sides of production and content creation. I think that's my last bit on that.
Look, I'm firmly of the belief that decentralized to the experts, that's the right thing to do, but somebody please take ownership and accountability of centralizing planning. That's probably my only advice. For any circus, there has to be an effective ringmaster. You figure that out first, and then, the world you can play with.
So agencies are becoming the ringmasters now. So yeah. Ankita?
So I'll say that I'll just give you the example basis on the content marketplace, Talentrack. So as Talentrack is a powerful enabler for the brands and the agencies to simplify the overall content creations, right? The entire journey. So here I'll say that the speed becomes a very important thing, the agility when we talk about, right? The cost efficiency is very much important. So how Talentrack is actually, catering this is that we guys have the direct contacts, we have the direct access to our 700,000 plus creators. So it becomes very easy for us to do the negotiation, And the affordability, definitely this is the negotiation part, which I spoke about, and the choices, which makes everything very easy. Because, of course, you also know that in the previous, past decade, brand used to work with one agency for a long time, right? And these days, people, the brands are dating, as you already mentioned. So I think the marketplace is becoming like Tinder. We guys are making the match happening, and we are actually giving the good deliverables.
Yeah, content at scale. I remember a campaign done by ourselves on Philips. It was, you needed like 1,000 pieces of content to go up in 6 days by 1,000 people. So I think the speed.
Speed is
is key, and consistency is key. I think great inputs, insights from all of you, and I don't know if we've got any questions from the audience, but we're open for questions.
Hi. How important do you think is the role of pricing when we are talking about the content studio system, both from production POV and the media POV? Because we see a lot of competition and different scales of agencies coming into play on both sides. So how important do you think is pricing the factor for the client and the ROI that we're able to deliver in terms of margins for the agency and the kind of return for the client?
You mean cost?
Yes, cost.
Of course.
In terms of the pricing that you are getting to deploy media, and then from the content side, the agency that is producing the content for the client.
And you mean the cost of physically preparing that piece of content?
That's for for the production part.
Okay.
And then you're deploying media, the media buying that you're doing, how effective is that supposed to be in today's time when you have multiple agencies?
I hear you. Okay, got it. Okay. So, there's a thumb rule in marketing, typically in very early day B school advice, which is a 1:2 ratio. So for every $1 that you spent on creating something, you spend at least $2 on proliferating it. There's a typical 1:2 rule of thumb. So sometimes it's very stupid to make a TVC for 10 crore rupees and spend 2 crores on media. I don't think anyone should do that. So having said that, one is at least a 1:2. And I think the other bit is it isn't necessarily whether it is banner A or banner B or radio spot A or B or an OH site A or B, as long as it's the same message and it's the same campaign and there is consistency. So, for example, in my world, I run the media business for Apple. I would do the same shot on iPhone on a paper. I would do the same shot on iPhone on a billboard. I would do the same shot on iPhone wherever visibly you see it. So for me, shot on iPhone is one creative that has blue color, red color, yellow color, doesn't matter, in various different places. As long as my threshold of attention for the messaging of shot on iPhone stays, I'm good. And even for that, for different media, there are threshold levels, at least so much exposure, at least so much reach, blah, blah, blah. So there's math that exists and there's thresholds that exist for each media to say how much is enough or how much should be the bare minimum. But at a fundamental level, rule of thumb is 1:2.
Ankita, 1:2, is that Did you mean non-working and working media ratio?
Correct.
Uh, Over time, with all conventions becoming redundant, does that still hold true, or I would expect it to be 1:3 or 1:4 by now? I mean, I'm just
I'm
asking.
saying at least 1:2.
Okay, sure.
Minimum threshold, yeah. And I think also on the question piece, now what's happening is there is a lot of content being created by content creators, which could be very cheap, like okay, not cheap from a quality cheap, but from a cost cheap, and suddenly some of that content kind of going viral, you know, which is like which is briefs that we get ki kuch karao viral. So you know, I think the cost piece is also now coming down to that you know, sabse sasta mein sabse zyada is what, you know, brands are looking at.
Are you taking more questions?
Oh, okay.
No, I actually was
Priyanka
here
is
for
here,
questions
so-
only, so
Oh,
which you
okay.
already had started, so that's a great thing.
Okay.
We can take a couple more. I think.
I can't see hands up, so. Okay, there is. There. Okay, yeah, sure.
So my question is, I just want to understand is, you know, how are these new age, you know, AI tools that we are kind of using to help to personalize real-time content, and will that be a sustainable, you know, implementation going forward in terms of creating content? Because right now the way we're looking at is, we're, you know, rightly with the panel said, we're not just creating a couple of assets, we're creating thousands and, you know, multiple assets. So will, you know, the use of AI tools, is that, you know, does that help in kind of personalizing real-time content for the, yeah.
Surely, yes. Uh, AI definitely is helping and being employed or deployed increasingly so. Just to give you statistics, one of our clients is Philips, and that's our common client as well. We did figure out that in the last 6-8 months, about 35% of content that we've created for Philips, the individual pieces of content, and they run into thousands, right? About 35% of those are AI assisted or AI generated, right? So absolutely bang on with, you know, the question. That affirmative, yes, absolutely. At the same time, there are a lot of guidelines that still need to be followed. The AI usage guidelines, as we say. For example, one very common, and I think last night we were speaking, some of us, about this. One of the very prominent guidelines is, for example, not to AI generate a human talent, right? For various reasons, but the biggest point being, you generate an AI-based human talent or a face, and it starts resembling a Virat Kohli or a Shah Rukh Khan, and you had it then, right? So brands are kind of taking a lot of cautious steps in that direction, and also, of course, the workforce that you have available. Very important point. I'm diverging a little you know, here, but very important, and for the larger audience, we do have workforce, you know, that's been there with our organization, her organization, all of our organizations, right? It is very important that we make new hires who are AI aware and AI ready to use, but it is at the same time also important as a responsible organization to be able to run trainings and cautiously, consciously, both kind of train your existing manpower to be AI ready and start using, you know, more and more. So from both perspectives. So absolutely, it is need driven, and it is also one's own capability driven to be using AI on that sense. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. It's been great chatting with you all this afternoon with no rains in Mumbai. A lot of people were very scared, so it's good to be here, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.